This is a video about Batman. This is clearly the wrong t-shirt. No. No. Is Scott Pilgrim even a superhero? Yeah. That's not even specific. I don't even... Okay, Batman. This video is a review of The Dark Knight Rises, and it will be full of spoilers. Full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Dark Knight Rises and you don't want it ruined for you, go away now, please. My reaction when I walked out of the theater after seeing Dark Knight Rises was basically like this. Oh my god, that was the best movie I've ever seen in my life! Because it's a really cool movie, a basically solid ending to a great trilogy. It takes place 8 years after the events of The Dark Knight, and in that time, Gotham's really dug itself out of a hole. When Batman took the fall for Harvey Dent going completely bonkers in The Dark Knight, it actually gave the people of Gotham hope, and crime rates are down, and stocks are up, and all that good stuff. At this point, they don't even need a Batman, which is a really good thing, because Bruce Wayne's been in a pretty unhealthy retirement since The Dark Knight. Like, he's got a beard, and he needs a cane, and he sits up in his room all the time, and no one ever sees him. And he's not paying attention to his business, so Wayne Industries is just crashing into the ground. Bruce is in bad shape. That is until Bane shows up and decides that he wants to wreck Gotham. He's like the biggest, baddest thing that the city's ever seen. So Bruce decides he needs to put the suit back on once again, come out of retirement, and defend Gotham. If you ask me, The Dark Knight Rises was definitely Christopher Nolan's weakest Batman film, and I will explain why, but first, some good aspects. Alfred, he might not be in the movie much, but when he is, he always gets across what we, the audience, want to say. He realizes as much as the audience does that even though Bruce hung up the mask and cape a long time ago, he still refuses to move on and be a real person. And that's why he gets really concerned when Bruce decides that he needs to fight Bane. Firstly, because Bruce is an old Batman now. Alfred knows that he's gonna get freaking obliterated by this guy. But what really concerns him is the knowledge that Gotham has nothing more to offer Bruce. So if Bruce dies fighting Bane, it might be because that's what he wanted. It's cool because you're sort of subconsciously thinking all these things while you're watching the movie. And it feels good to know that at least one of these characters is on the same page as you. Tom Hardy as Bane was awesome. Like, he's really scary. Okay, the Joker was creepy, but Bane's terrifying. A good way to demonstrate this is by the fact that Bane basically wins halfway through the movie. In The Dark Knight, the Joker wanted to spin Gotham into complete chaos and anarchy, basically just to prove that he could. But Batman stopped him, at least before he could spin everything completely out of control. This city's full of people ready to believe in good, and all that. Until their spirit breaks completely, the Joker said, and also Batman's spine. And he was totally right. These civilized people do eat each other. Bane takes Batman out, and then he just brings Gotham to its knees. He completely seals off the city from the inside. The wealthy are being ripped from their homes and thrown into the cold, and people are hanging from bridges, and Jonathan Crane was the city judge. That was a nice touch. Bane wins. Plus, he's just, like, naturally scary. Like, he wears that mask, and his eyes are all evil, and he's big, and he's physically superior to Batman. And there's that voice. His voice is very distinct and booming and loud. It's got this whole tone to it, like, I'm scary, listen to me. At the very beginning of the movie, he's thousands of feet up in the air, the cargo doors are open, he's got a bag over his head, and somehow his voice still booms throughout the plane. It's the coolest. Now, you hear people complaining that you can't understand it, but there was really only one scene for me where I couldn't understand what he was saying. But other than that, I thought he was fine. You know, for a Batman film, there's really not a whole lot of Batman, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I thought it was kind of cool. It felt like they were sort of preserving him so that when you do see him, you get that much more excited, especially when you see him for the first time. It's been 4 years since we've seen Batman in action, and 8 years for the people of Gotham. So when you see him ride out on that bat bike thing, and the cops all revere him, and that music plays, and you see him fighting alongside Catwoman, and you're just like, yes, Batman's back! Also, in The Dark Knight, that spinny wheel function that the Batbike had I thought was really cool, and I'm glad that it was in The Dark Knight Rises more. Speaking of Catwoman, I was a total believer in Anne Hathaway right from the beginning, like right when she was cast as Catwoman. She's grown up since The Princess Diaries, she's a big girl now. I thought she was gonna be great when most people were skeptical. But of course, I ended up being one of the few people who wasn't amazed by her performance. Don't get me wrong, most of the time she was great, but a lot of times, especially in the beginning, she acted very cartoony and, dare I say, Michelle Pfeiffer-y. I'm sorry, but I'm just not a fan of the Tim Burton Batman movies, and anything that resembles something from those movies just isn't gonna sell me. Another problem, the whole thing with Bruce Wayne's leg injury is very inconsistent. He hurt his leg from when he fell off the building at the end of The Dark Knight, but in that very scene, right after he falls, he runs a good distance away from the cops and then rides his bike away. But then 8 years later, he can't walk without a cane? Then a little ways into the movie, Lucius Fox gives Bruce this little magical leg contraption that'll help him walk right. But then even later in the movie, like when Bruce is in the pit, he doesn't need the leg thingy or the cane to walk right, so... But you know, the whole leg thing, that's just a little problem. Batman Begins had little problems, The Dark Knight had little problems. The Dark Knight Rises has little problems too, but it also has a big problem. Later in the film, it's revealed that Miranda Tate is actually Talia al Ghul, who's the mastermind behind this whole destroying Gotham thing. The reason she's doing this is basically to avenge and to finish the work of her father, Ra's al Ghul, who was the villain in Batman Begins. So that's a solid motive to be a bad guy, fine, but here's the thing. When Ra's al Ghul wanted to destroy Gotham in 2005, it was a dying city. It was a horrible place to live. The city was barely trudging along with the rest of the world. So Ra's idea is that he would destroy Gotham, it would then be reborn from the ashes, and then it would flourish. But you know, Batman saved the day before that could happen. So what Talia wants to do is finish out her father's work by destroying Gotham with a giant bomb, but Gotham was doing fine before she showed up. Like I said, Batman and Gordon lying about Harvey Dent at the end of The Dark Knight basically saved Gotham. The city was doing great. There was no longer a reason for Talia and the League of Shadows to come in and destroy the place. The members of the League of Shadows aren't stupid. You'd figure one of these ninjas would walk up to Talia and say, hey, looks like that Bruce Wayne guy was right. Gotham can be saved. Moving on. The movie has its fair share of other plot holes and things that could have been done better. A lot towards the end. Like that whole thing in the pit. Bruce Wayne's supposed supposed to be recovering in there for like 5-6 months, and it goes by like that. That scene doesn't feel like half a year. I mean, the entire title of the movie is based around Bruce Wayne being in this pit and what these guys chant from inside it. And when he gets out of the pit, he's just like in the middle of South America or wherever, so how does he get back to Gotham? And even then, Gotham's completely sealed off. How does he show up in the middle of the city next to Catwoman and be like, what's up? And also that whole thing with Robin I thought was kind of lame. Throughout the movie, John Blake is built up to sort of be this super hybrid of everything Harvey Dent, Gordon, and Batman stand for. Plus, he's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. You know he's not going to be a side character. You know he's going to take on the mantle of Gotham's heroes somehow. But just knowing that he's going to take up that mantle as Robin makes it feel less awesome. That scene would have been exactly the same and conveyed the exact same message if they just left out the word Robin. You could have found the Batcave and been lifted up onto that platform and never been referred to as Robin, and it would have been exactly the same, just more awesome. So yeah, unfortunately, The Dark Knight Rises starts to fall apart quite a bit towards the end, and that's why I'd say it's the worst of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. But like, how much weight does that statement really carry? Being the worst Nolan Batman movie is like being the weakest Olympic athlete. This is the first Batman series to make it to a third film. Why do all these superhero trilogies seem to fall apart at the third movie? X-Men, Superman, Spider-Man, Blade, and now Batman. Maybe they should just stop at the second movie from now on.